All right, it's a pleasure right now to be joined by Josh Pate. You can catch him all over the place on YouTube, on Twitter. He works with 24/7 and CBS Sports. Josh, thanks so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure to be here, and we got a big reason to be here, man. Big game this weekend.
Well, Josh, as much as the postseason's important and the playoffs and whatnot, to me, this is the best part of the college football season. October, the SEC matchups. I mean, get me on a college campus in the fall with nice weather and a band and a stadium of 90, 100,000 people. This game, LSU and Tennessee this weekend. Tennessee hadn't been to Baton Rouge in 12 years, a game we can talk about in a moment. But how do you feel about this matchup?
You can normally tell the people who go to games versus the people who just stay at home on Saturday. And there's nothing wrong with doing either. But if you go to games, if you go, for instance, this Saturday, and you see the tailgate scene, I don't care what time they kick the game off. I know you prefer night, but even at 11 a.m., the tailgate scene, the in-stadium atmosphere, the pageantry and tradition, no one who experiences that vibe is in a hurry for it to end and to get to the playoff. The playoff will come, postseason will come, but this stuff right here, I'm like you. This is what I enjoy so much, and I'm ultra excited about this game. I know we've got schedule rotation changes coming up, but they're not here yet. So as you just said, last time we saw this Tennessee team down here, I was just a little while out of high school. And of course, it was a very memorable ending. The final minute of that game feels like an entire novel could be written on it. But it's going to be very, very exciting, man. Very exciting. And it's a pivotal game for both teams.
Yeah, just real quick, the SEC scheduling has always been a debated topic. I mean, I was just visiting with Aaron Murray the other day, the former Georgia quarterback, and everyone talks about Athens and how great Athens is, and LSU hadn't been there since he was a quarterback in 2013, going head to head with Zach Mettenberger when he was throwing to Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry. I think LSU fans would like to make that trip, and so these are some of those scheduling quirks we've been dealing with for years.
Yeah. And thankfully, sounds like that's about to shift. And it sounds like you will not go your college career if you stay 4 years without having visited every SEC venue. And that also goes for the fan bases too. So it's a shock that it took so long to fix, because it's a shock that we have had this mentality that college football schedules have to be decided over the next decade. Meanwhile, a couple of years ago in the COVID year, extreme circumstance, mind you, but we were sitting here scheduling on the fly, and we set up a game on Sunday to be played on Thursday. I think that year really knocked down a lot of the facade of old school thinking about how scheduling has to work. And I think we'll get even more aggressive and radical with it moving forward. I think there's coming a time where the schedules for college football are announced in February of that year, and it's kind of built up as an event the same way the NFL does it.
Yeah, not to go too far off the trail on this topic, but in 2020, like you said, LSU was supposed to host Missouri. Louisiana dealt with a hurricane. The game gets shifted to Columbia. I went up there. I'd never been to Columbia. Beautiful college town. If you're in the fall and leaves changing on the trees and all that, great town. But LSU still has not been to Missouri, like on a scheduled thing, since they've joined the conference in 2012. That's another case. So
it's amazing.
So LSU, all right. So they opened the year with this loss to Florida State. They get an extra point blocked and everything, but now they're getting their feet beneath them a little bit. They still haven't played anybody elite yet. This is Brian Kelly's first real chance to score the first huge win of the Brian Kelly era, with Tennessee coming in as a top 10 team.
Yeah. So if you go back to July or August and you're licking that index finger and you're flipping through the preview magazines, this is what you would have thought about LSU if you viewed them from 50,000 feet. They could have a nip and tuck game in week one, 3-point spread either way. And then they have some games lined up that they should win. And all that's happened so far. So I thought the Mississippi State game was overlooked. I know you guys down there understand how big it was nationally. I don't think that popped on the radar like it should, because Mississippi State's a really good team, and they hadn't lost since then. So this game Saturday, that's to me the first time the nation's eyes will have been on LSU since the FSU game. And so the lasting image people have in their minds is LSU looking discombobulated, they squandered opportunity late, etc. And that's all well and good, because it doesn't matter what people think, it matters what you do. You got a rested team coming in. You just had to go through a 4-quarter fight on the road last week against Auburn. And everyone, I think, will assume because of that, hey, Tennessee's going to roll in this thing. If not early, eventually, Tennessee will roll. Well, I'm so interested on the other side about the opportunity that LSU has in the passing game to do something we haven't seen all year because you got the 128th ranked secondary in the country coming in with Tennessee. So I know that this team's being built up, and I'm on board with that. Tennessee's a very good team, but they're not without flaws and not without aspects of their team that you can take advantage of. And I just I think this is the kind of game where you have an opportunity to flip the script. Everyone expects Tennessee to put up really good offensive numbers. This is LSU's opportunity to flip the script and put up some numbers, the likes of which we haven't seen them put up so far this year.
Yeah, and the old saying, Vegas always knows, a big disparity in the rankings. 8 and LSU just got into the top 25, and Tennessee's a 2.5-point favorite. So they're expecting a close game. It is Tiger Stadium, obviously, who may have the biggest home field advantage in college football. Brian Kelly talking about the game, Josh, late in the Les Miles era, for 2014, 2015, when they're struggling to get to 120 yards passing back then. It was, well, we won the game. Don't ask any questions. The object of the game is to win. And you win 8 or 9 out of the 12 you play. But hey, coach, when you play Alabama, that's not going to work. Don't ask any questions about that. Brian Kelly says, hey, look, we beat Auburn. That's great. But we ain't going to beat top 10 teams passing for 85 yards. So obviously he's looking for Jaden Daniels. Hadn't thrown an interception yet, but as the great Charles Hannaford said, to cook an omelet, you got to break some eggs, right? So we need to throw the ball down the field a little bit. So I'm interested to see how much he tests that secondary, like you talked about.
Well, I think it's a no-brainer they're going to. And I respect the mentality of Brian Kelly because you're looking at a team in any given moment as an overall product. And so it could be that in that moment, you happen to have just come off a 50-point win. It could be in that moment you just came off a close win or a loss. You still use the same factors. You still hold the team to the same standard. And so Brian Kelly looked after the Auburn game and said, yeah, we did just win a game, but it's not to the standard that I want it to be, regardless of the outcome. And that's intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation and whatnot. So he looks at it, and I think a lot of people are going to look at it. Now, the two differing philosophies is I think a lot of folks in the betting community or just fans picking games will say LSU threw for 85 yards last week. Therefore, they're not good enough to throw the ball on Tennessee and take advantage. Brian Kelly, or maybe the more sharp bettor, looks and says, okay, the effort they gave last week, the plan they had last week, only amassed 85 yards passing. So the last thing they're motivated to do is duplicate whatever plan they put in place last week. So I don't know what differently you'll get from them this week, but it's almost a certainty that you will get something different and with a different procedure, with a different approach. Sometimes, in a more favorable matchup, comes different results. And it wouldn't surprise me if they had surpassed that 85 yards through the air total in the first quarter, because that's the kind of thing that happens in this sport. That's why we love it so much.
Great stuff. Jordan-Hare Stadium was louder than I expected last week. Going over there, I thought it might have been kind of a tame crowd considering the Brian Harsin situation and all that, but it was it was rocking, and I think maybe LSU was maybe a little sped up in their passing game and their timing and everything. We'll see. Josh covers everybody. Okay? He knows everybody back and forth. I'm just in my little bubble here with LSU, but Kayshon Boutte, last year was probably on his way to being a Biletnikoff finalist or something like that. This year, he's got less than 100 yards receiving through 5 games this year. And not to get too technical about football, Josh, but it seems like in the past, he was good on quick slants across the middle, hit him, get him the ball, and he just dust the defense and take off. And it seems like they're not throwing him the ball across the middle. It's all these out routes, and they're not utilizing him well. Just your opinion on Kayshon, the year he was supposed to have, and the year he's having so far.
I'll just put it this way. None of that happens by accident. Now, in a single game situation, you may veer a little bit from what your game plan was, and you get post game, you said, wow, so-and-so only had 2 touches. That wasn't the way we wanted it to play out. It's the way the game flowed. When you get several games into the season and you start looking at a production sheet, things aren't accidental on there anymore. So what I'm not here to do is explain all the reasons why LSU has chosen to go about it that way. What I am here to do is blindly say, I bet they probably have good reasons for that. And it could be anywhere from Kayshon himself. It could be that the offense doesn't necessarily trust quarterbacks throwing the ball over the middle right now. It could be a number of different things, but I don't think that's accidental. And therefore, I don't know if that's something that's just going to radically shift.
Yeah. And the coaching matchup in this game, Josh Heupel, we saw him at the Fiesta Bowl when he was coaching Central Florida a few years back, Joe Burrow's first year in 2018. He's not the most charismatic guy in the world. I mean, he's not thrilling at the podium, but that's not what they pay him to do. He obviously is a pretty solid coach the way he has Tennessee going in the right direction, especially when he inherited. They were in a lot of trouble, it seemed like. And then Brian Kelly on the other end of things, quirky fit, people fish out of water, Yankee in the South, all the things you've heard. The two coaches in this game.
Yeah, well, I've got no doubts about Brian Kelly. Okay, the day he was hired, I would have endorsed that if anyone asked me, and good to go. So, I mean, that's the long and short of my take on Brian Kelly. I have no question about the guy. With Josh Heupel, I thought it was really peculiar only because when he got hired at Tennessee, some of the feedback I got from Central Florida was, I can't believe Tennessee just hired that guy because he wasn't even on solid ground here. There were people down there who thought Josh Heupel was one more down season away from being out at Central Florida. So he goes to Tennessee. His AD is there too. And they've turned the program around. They should have been a disaster last year. They lost so many guys to the portal, and they overachieved last year. So far, they're undefeated this year. They're running more plays per minute than any team in the country. So they got that offense humming the way they want it to. He found the quarterback even already on campus than he needed. And Hendon Hooker, to me, is such a testament to a lot of the guys around the country. Think about the quarterbacks in different places that you've just written off. You watched one of them in Hendon Hooker go from Virginia Tech to Tennessee. He's not a different person. He's got the same skill set he always had. It just goes to show you how different a player looks when you put him into the right situation with the right leadership and the right guidance and the right tools around him. All of a sudden, he's in the Heisman Trophy conversation. And you think, well, what happened to him? Nothing happened to him. His surroundings changed. And that's going to happen more and more in the portal era. But Josh Heupel, man, you've got to be impressed. And that's also behind Georgia, a division that's been wide open for a little while. So Tennessee looks around and says, well, if no one else is going to pull up alongside Georgia, or at least try to, maybe we will.
Yeah, great stuff. A couple more things with the great Josh Pate. In the meantime, Gus Malzahn took his place at Central Florida, right? And some people at Auburn are like, why did we fire him to begin with? So that's where it is with that. All right, so I don't want to bite the hand that feeds us, but the CBS decisions this week on the broadcast. Okay, so Texas A&M and Alabama in prime time before the year, the food fight with Jimbo and Saban. How long can we stretch this out over 4 hours if the game's going to be a massacre, which we think it's going to be? And then Georgia playing Auburn. Auburn probably going to get nailed to the cross in Athens. We'll see. But this is a doubleheader. A lot of people down here in Baton Rouge are like, hey, LSU, Tennessee, this is a lot could have been done with this game at 2:30 or another time slot.
I was very surprised. And I can hear the wheels spinning at CBS PR, daring me to say anything negative about him. But
yeah,
I would have bet so much money that this LSU Tennessee game, was going to be a 3:30 game, and it's not, and it's voluntary because CBS chose Auburn, Georgia. It defies logic. It defies explanation. So I work for the company. I don't run the company, obviously, because if I did, we may have made a different decision. But it's something I think a lot of fans are going to talk about all week. Brian Kelly's challenge is to make it a non-factor for his team, and the best way to do that is a fast start. You get the crowd engaged as much as you can, but you got to keep your team engaged, because I know what the culture's like down there. Okay, all jokes aside, I get how valuable those night kickoffs are, especially, but even a mid-afternoon kickoff. So, yeah, it's not nothing. It does matter, and it's not something I can explain, and it's a huge blessing for Tennessee. But you got to find – it's like playing in cold weather when you're a baseball player. It's a constant, and everyone's going to have to deal with it. So why not mentally try and harness it and flip it to your advantage? Brian Kelly's got to find a way to do that.
Yeah. Josh is like, look, dude, I'm giving you some spare time. I'm meeting with you in my spare time. You're asking me to bite the hand that feeds me, talk about CBS. But, I don't want you to do that. But it's funny because I work for a CBS station. We're losing the SEC in 2 years or whatever. And believe me, the people up top are not happy about that. We'd rather lose the NFL than the SEC. I guess the one positive, Josh, is we won't be blamed for the 2:30 kickoffs anymore.
There you go.
Ruining the tradition of LSU football. We're supposed to play at night. All right, final thing. 2010. All right, I was here covering that game. Not my finest hour the way I handled it in press conferences with Coach Miles and whatnot, but I don't think I've ever seen a luckier win. And Les Miles won 80% of his games, but there were a lot of horseshoe shoved up somewhere victories. And this one, T-Bob Aber, I just interviewed him, and so many great sound bites about this game and how it went down. It's being recycled on Twitter. People watching it now, maybe who didn't see it the first time around. Just one of the craziest endings ever, right?
I remember vividly sitting in, I guess, my bedroom or living room or whatever in Harris County, Georgia. I have no attachment to either team. I'm just a fan of college football, and I'm watching that. And you got to keep in mind now, for all my whole life, my childhood, I looked up to head coaches and I revered them. I thought they were all geniuses. I thought that their thinking in game, if I could see it happening, would be like watching mission control at NASA. To see a end of game situation bungled that horrifically, it just blew my mind. And didn't he do it again at Ole Miss? There was a weird situation against Ole Miss
the year before, the November before, yeah.
So I was just thinking to myself, if anything, I thought to myself, maybe I could be a coach because I could do it this well. I could pull this off. If that's all it takes, I could do this. And I remember, my mom is a huge Tennessee fan, and I think I may have been at their house, and she went crazy. And the problem, I guarantee you, this was the case in a lot of places in Knoxville. There was so long a delay between when it looked like the game had ended and when you realized, oh, it's not over. A lot of Tennessee fans already went into celebration mode. So my mom's on the phone with her sister, and then all of a sudden she's walking in the living room and seeing, why are they running another play? Is this a replay? No, this is live. You just lost. How? And that was the question everyone asked, even on the LSU side at the end of the day. How? And to this day, we have not gotten a definitive answer to that question.
T-Bob said, I snapped the ball. We didn't have a play. Like Jordan Jefferson, the quarterback, is looking to the sideline because there's no play, and then the ball just rolls past him to midfield. And then LSU, Derek Dooley in his orange pants thinks he's won the first big game of his Tennessee career. Nope. Florida State had that fumble against LSU in the season opener. They said, who runs a toss dive on the goal line? LSU runs a toss dive on the goal line to win the game, with Stephen Ridley somehow breaks his way into the end zone. And then the next week, Josh, not to go on too big of a tangent, they go to Florida and they fake a field goal and they throw the ball over their shoulder, and the ball, an oval football, bounces straight up.
Yep.
They get a first down and beat Urban Meyer in the swamp. So you can't make this stuff up.
How great would it have been if you got into the post-game press conference that day and Miles, without hesitation, just said, well, we wanted to run tempo there because we knew they had too many men on the field. Next question.
It was some gobbledygook about, substitutions, and we were trying to, the way that Les spoke back then. Did not call two plays. Coaches that are paid millions and millions of dollars, they did not have two plays called there at the end. So
we'll just see what happens. I think was the phrase used in the huddle. We'll just see what happens.
Josh, thanks so much, man, and congratulations. I know you signed a big new deal with your company there, and I know people enjoy this new era of used to be sports was Sports Center and the local news, and now you go to YouTube and can watch countless videos that you've done at any time. So
I mean, look, I grew up in that era, and I thought that at one point I was all set. I never would have gotten into this if I thought that the college football fan was still being served the way that it was when I was a kid. I didn't feel it was that way anymore at the national level. And so I said, hey, let's start our own show. And I think it's taken off in part because our audience is great, but our audience is just looking for college football the way that they want it. And that means with everything else filtered out. So it seems like such an easy blueprint, but for some reason, the majors out there have decided to go a different direction.
And just to compliment you, I mean, you work for CBS, but I almost kind of think of you as like an independent guy who's doing independent content. And we don't need to mention names or point fingers, but, just like me or any profession, there are people out there who you never gravitate to the clickbait, sensational, let's get people stirred up over something. if you have to talk about a coach getting fired, you will, but you're not going to bring it up before it needs to be brought up and all this stuff. There seems to be a lot of those kind of people out there, but I think you still in a new kind of era and a new kind of atmosphere, do your best to keep it down the middle.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's intentional because the big secret that I don't think enough people realize in our business is it's not a click game anymore. It's a retention game. You don't get rewarded long term for getting people to click on the flashy thumbnail or headline. If your content's not good, they just tune out immediately anyway. The big companies, man, the big platforms, they reward you for whether you can make people stay on those videos, stay on those podcasts. And you can't clickbait your way to that. There is no easy way to do that. You've got to have something they're interested in.
Engagement, right? Retention, engagement, like you said.
So. Yep, that's it. Those are the names of the game.
So you will be in Tiger Stadium.
We will be at LSU for Tennessee LSU, and then we will head up to Tuscaloosa that evening for Texas A&M versus Alabama. So somehow we're going to pull 2 games off in one day.
Well, I hope it's a close game. I mean, Jimbo beat him last year. We'll see what he pulls out this year. And by the way, great use. You're not Carrot Top, but great use of the milk jug the other day. Expired 2014. I thought that was fantastic. So
I couldn't have done it without Jimbo.
It's just funny how things work out, Josh. He was that close to being the head coach here in 2015, and if he does become the head coach, I don't think we have Joe Burrow. I don't think we have all that. It bottomed out after, but be careful what you wish for, right?
And yet there are people who were down in the dumps at the time when that didn't happen. Look how life plays out.
Good stuff. Josh Pate, thanks so much, man.
I appreciate it.